I owe an apology. And I really mean it. I'm not kidding. I am sorry to the Game Awards. In my video where I voted on winners and I reacted to the nominees of the Game Awards, I was very frustrated. Adding Elden Ring's DLC as a Game of the Year contender completely threw the entire voting system out of whack for me and made what is usually a really fun experience of voting a nightmare. And I titled my video, "The Game Awards Are Becoming a Joke." And I meant that when I wrote it, because it felt like a joke to me at the time, that addition of Elden Ring as a DLC. But then I sat there a couple nights ago. In fact, I sat on this very couch with a temperature of 101 degrees, a flu of which sent my wife to the ER just days before that, and still managed, regardless of how I was feeling, to thoroughly enjoy all 4 hours of the Game Awards in what was one of the greatest nights in gaming. An event that really was a love letter to video games, an event that clearly was filled with so much passion from both Geoff Keighley himself and whatever team he has around him to put on a show like that. Game reveals so incredible and also nostalgic that it couldn't better iconicize, is that a word? It is now, the history of gaming. And in general, a show that was something very special and something to be remembered. It was anything but a joke. And I wanted to go on record and state that I think it was incredible. And it meant a lot to me as somebody who deeply cares about video games. And I want to break down the 2024 Game Awards, explain why I feel like this night honored both the history of gaming and also its future. I also want to talk about all the games we saw, the reveals, the ones I'm excited about. And I even want to dive into some of the controversy surrounding a couple of the games that were revealed. We'll see how I handle that one. To start, yeah, I'm aware that I lost my streak, okay? I was going for my 4th year in a row of predicting the Game of the Year, and I was surprised. I was shocked when Astro Bot won.
And the Game of the Year is Astro Bot.
We will talk about it. First up, I want to say we had 4 hours of gaming nerds putting on an event, and it somehow wasn't cringe, which I think is the ultimate compliment you can give an event like this. There was only a couple of moments that stood out to me where I really just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. Like at the very start when the father of PlayStation tried to stand up and get on stage while Geoff was talking about him, and he clearly was not supposed to. And he was just standing at the front, not knowing what to do. Oh, Geoff, let him on stage. Who cares if it's not planned? Felt so bad for him. Even the Muppets, which could have easily been an incredible cringy waste of time, they actually used them as a way of voicing the opinions, concerns, and complaints that people have around the Game Awards, including even the issue I had with the Elden Ring DLC.
And I also heard they nominated DLC for Game of the Year.
That's like giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to pre-order bonuses.
Even though I'm aware they're not really making fun of Geoff, they're making fun of us, all of us, for complaining about it. It's Geoff's cheeky way of saying, yeah, I know you're pissed. We're doing it anyway. Here's the Muppets. You win on that one. That's hilarious. Next, talking about the show addressing certain things. We couldn't really have this night of gaming, celebrating everything great in gaming, without addressing the bad side, and that is the industry layoffs. And Geoff himself even took a moment to address that in the show.
Games were nothing without the people behind them. Now, the sad reality is that over the past few years, the gaming industry has suffered significant and unprecedented industry-wide layoffs. Those affect the games we get to play and, even more importantly, the people who make the games we love.
And even though he said himself that it's maybe not the place or the platform for him to really do anything or give any big explanation, he at least wanted to address it, and he acknowledges that it's an issue. But it didn't end there. Sven, who directed Baldur's Gate 3, he literally stood up there and roasted the gaming industry for 3 minutes straight.
They didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. They didn't treat their players as users to exploit. They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow.
Geoff could have thrown up that please wrap it up sign from last year, but just let him have at it.
It's stupidly simple.
And then even Hazelight's director Joseph, in his new trailer for the Split Fiction video game, mentioned how his game has no microtransactions, no loot boxes, and no bullshit.
No loot boxes, no microtransactions, and no bullshit.
Just a fun game, which, by the way,
You only need to buy one copy of the game to play it with your friend online.
that man is a treasure, and I welcome him every year. Him and the flute guy. I mean, a Game Awards isn't a Game Awards without these two at this point. Furthermore, Geoff even created a new award for the show called the Game Changer Award, and awarded it to a guy called Amir, who has helped over 3,000 people get jobs within the game industry. When he took the stage and started thanking everybody and breaking down into sobbing tears, I looked over to my right and Kim was literally crying. And she had no investment in any of this up until that moment.
Our 3 sons and my parents who devoted their lives to me and taught me that my value lies in how I treat other people.
And I couldn't help but get a tear in my eye too, seeing someone who clearly cares about the gaming industry. Giving an award to somebody like this is clearly sending a message that will hopefully inspire others to do the same. When I was researching and looking up information for this video, I noticed people are pointing out that he is the head CEO of Tencent, a company who is well known at this point for layoffs, and saying that not only does he not deserve the award, but that he is the problem with the gaming industry. As ironic as it is on paper that he's being celebrated for giving people jobs while Tencent is laying people off, Tencent started its layoffs in 2022 due to COVID and the state of the gaming industry as a whole. But that was in 2022, and Amir didn't start working for Tencent until late 2023, early 2024. And his whole goal of becoming CEO of this company is to slow that bleeding. He's doing his best to slow the rate in an industry that's already in decline, while already, over the last couple of years, actively helping hundreds of thousands of people find new jobs. Amir went on record forecasting how many people he was going to have to lay off that year, and also what he was doing to help find other people jobs. News outlet Venture described it as a remarkable bit of transparency in an industry full of companies who are not at all transparent in the same way. Amir was quoted saying, "If you ask what number of additional layoffs I would be happy with, the answer is 0. Unfortunately, when you run a multi-billion-dollar company and you have thousands of employees in an industry that is suffering from layoffs, you yourself at some point are gonna have to lay some people off. In the meantime, his side hustle is helping people like the people he's having to lay off find new jobs. I don't think there is a better person to run a multi-billion-dollar company like that. Moving on, I think Geoff himself deserves an award for the way that he cleaned up the advertising around the event. He listens to criticism. He takes everything on board. He's very active in the community. I appreciate that so much. After every single Game Awards, he's gone straight to Twitter and done a poll asking people to rate the Game Awards because he wants the feedback to figure out what he did right, what he could do better. And this year, there was barely any ads. For an event this size with this many people watching, I know Geoff turned down so many ads. I don't have nearly as many people watching me, and I turn down sponsors every month. I noticed and I appreciated. And by the way, the only ads that were there were all gaming ads, mostly Xbox and then Nintendo, because this is the only way Nintendo ever shows up to the Game Awards. They just send ads to the Game Awards. God forbid we reveal anything new. In previous years, they used to rush through the awards. And even last year, when they did have people on stage, they had the please hurry it up signs that you could see in the crowd. I'd say this year was the best for not having that happen. There was definitely certain categories that they grouped together, 4 or 5, and just read them all through at a time really quickly. And as much as that still feels a bit odd that we're here for the Game Awards and you're just gonna breeze through 5 of them like that, at the same time, if they did do every one the same service of all the others, you're adding like an hour or 2 hours into a show that's already 6 hours long. So you know what? It's a little awkward. I know we're here for that, but maybe it's for the best. In saying that, I feel like some people are going to be like, yeah, but they still waste time with the music performances and Snoop Dogg and the guy with the drums. And I would argue that that is one of the main things that make this show the love letter and spectacle to video games that video games and we actually deserve. Especially the final performance, which is always my favorite thing to look forward to, where they take all of the Game of the Year nominees and an orchestra and they blend the songs together. It is a symphony of nerdgasm gorgeousness. And the flute guy. Oh my God, the flute guy. But I love that so much. Snoop Dogg not only being there, which is cool because apparently he's working on his own game studio, which sounds really promising, and his son's involved. I mean, all of that is sick. But Snoop Dogg being there and performing a song that no one ever heard before, that he was releasing during the show, is such an iconic moment. It's the same feeling of like something really special is happening here, where we as gamers are finally getting acknowledged. Our video games that we've cared about for so long are finally like the leading multimedia industry and just getting better and cooler and more recognition to the point where we have Snoop Dogg performing a new track for the first time at the Game Awards. And rather than poo-poo it and push these people away and these moments away, how about we embrace it and realize how far we've come? You also had moments like the drum lead-up orchestral song into revealing Okami as a trailer, one of the biggest and coolest moments of the night, turning it not only into a reveal, but a performance, really gave that the unique, special moment that it deserved. That's what makes people pay attention. That's what makes the Game Awards and video games get taken more seriously. This is by far the best showing the Game Awards has ever put on. It was its 10-year anniversary. It went off without a hitch, and I don't think Geoff could be deservingly any more proud of the night. And you can clearly see in his eyes and in his voice how special this night was to him and how much he cared.
If you truly love video games like I do, this moment is for all of us.
And I think he crushed it. Again, I apologize for insinuating that the Game Awards might be a joke.
What? Oh, Waldorf, you old fool!
What a nightmare I was having. I dreamed we were still...
Watching this long-ass Beatemups video.
We are!
No!
Yep.
All right, let's actually talk about the games. All right, let's talk about the games at the Game Awards. Astro Bot won. The main thing I had an issue with was Elden Ring being allowed to be accepted as DLC. I do still kind of hope they reverse that decision. I just don't think it's necessary. We already have so many categories like Best Community Support and a couple others that are always stacked with the same 5 games every year. I don't think we have to turn the main category of the night into a similar thing. We also have an issue of a lot of categories having the same games in them. And I literally voice this opinion every year. And if you're still listening, Geoff, and if you're here, I need you to hear it again. It makes it so obvious who's going to win all the categories when the same games in those categories are in the Game of the Year category. I wonder who's going to win Best Action Game out of these 5 nominees. The one that's up for Game of the Year or the other 4 action games? It's probably going to be the one that's up for Game of the Year. I just poked myself in the eye. I'm so frustrated. Even down to Best Game Direction, which was the same 6 games that were up for Game of the Year. So of course, whoever has the best game direction was going to win Game of the Year, because if the Game of the Year winner didn't have the best game direction, why didn't it win Game of the Year? I kind of hope that we do away with that. That's still my only one complaint. But regardless of any of that, it doesn't even matter because Astro Bot won. To be honest, even if Elden Ring won, I would still be here having this apology. And I want to get ahead of that too, because I feel like some people would be like, he'd still say it's a joke if Elden Ring won. But either way, the show was great. However, it didn't win. Bugger off. Every year I say the same thing. I vote for the game that I think is going to win. And Elden Ring has won before, and I honestly thought that was going to win, but I refused to vote for it. So I believe I voted for Final Fantasy Rebirth, which is a hell of a game. I gotta tell you, it is a video game. It has everything I love about video games: action, adventure, role-playing. It is a game to a T. And looking back on it now, Black Myth is awesome, but it's a very linear, you just fight things the whole way through. And if you love hack and slashes, that's great for you. I definitely do. I had a blast, but it doesn't offer much more than that. Reflectively, Astro Bot offers a lot. It offers a lot to people of all ages. It offers a lot to families. Astro Bot itself takes you on this huge adventure to all these different locations and worlds with all these different gameplay mechanics. He even thanked Nintendo.
But I want to pay tribute to the company who really put like platformers and showed us innovation and quality consistently and inspired us to actually make the game that we made. So that's also, and I've managed not to mention them, have you noticed? but you all know who they are.
And credited the old days of him getting a gray box console and booting up Super Mario for the first time as his inspiration.
I remember I was a kid in 1989, Christmas, and I got a gray box. There was a game packed in. It was called Super Mario Brothers, and it was really, really great.
It's a fantastic, great example of what a video game should be, and also sends a message that, hey, you can make these high-definition, realistic action games, or microtransactions, or Fortnite, or all of that. Or you can just make a cute little platformer, and it'll be Game of the Year. It was a cherry on top, and something that, reflectively, I just should have seen coming. I was blinded by my rage of Elden Ring DLC, and I couldn't see the forest through the trees. Before we talk about my favorite reveals of the night, I want to talk about the reveals as a whole. Before we get to even new stuff, retro game revivals. Why was there so many? And why do they all look sick? Ninja Gaiden, Virtua Fighter, Turok, Onimusha, Double Dragon, and Evil Pac-Man Metrovania, and even one of the biggest reveals of the night was frickin' Okami. You can see Jeff Boy tearing up about this one. That's insane. I think my favorite, ironically, was Virtua Fighter. I used to play this back in the day. They're so funny to look at now, but they were supposed to be like hyper-realistic. But it's funny because this looks hyper-realistic, and it looks like they're pushing the boundaries. That was my most nostalgic one. You also had these looking to the future huge reveals. Any one of these reveals, by the way, could be the one more thing in any ordinary event. Witcher 4, another new Elden Ring next year, which as soon as I saw it, I was like, really? Elden Ring's gonna win 3 times in a row? I thought I was going for the Michael Jordan. They were. It was FromSoft the whole time. The creator of Ico has a new game, Outer Worlds 2, Borderlands 4, Yakuza developers having a new game called Project Century, and then of course Naughty Dog's Intergalactic. Planetary, intergalactic. I can't help but think about that. Slay the Spire 2, Split Fiction, Dave the Diver DLC, Long Dark 2, they had a Clive and Tekken 8. Helldivers 2, massive DLC the same day drop. The Russo brothers making a Souls-like game. The people that made Avengers Endgame making a Souls-like. New Dying Light, which looks visually pretty insane. Game of Thrones has an MMORPG coming out, and I don't hate it. Screamer is a new anime-inspired racer. The Payday creators showed their new game. A new Sonic Racer. There's like a game called Rematch, which looks like Rocket League, but without the cars. A new look at the Mafia game, which I honestly think is nailing the tone. And then Dispatch is a graphic novel that I might actually want to play, which says a lot about the game. And while I admit that by the end of the 4 hours, if I had to see another FPS game, I was gonna F my PS. I don't know what that means. Kim pointed it out because she watched the whole show with me, but a lot of the games at the end, if we had seen them at the start, we would have been excited for them. But after 3 hours of seeing FPS after zombie FPS, I just kind of wanted to see anything different. I think the two standout moments for me, though, are the moments where Jeff incorporated the reveal into the show. One was Okami, and the other one was a game called Stage Fright. It started with a trailer of characters watching a theater, like they were watching the gameplay like we all were at the Game Awards. But then it cut to the Game Awards, and the trailer melded with real life, and it seemingly looked like the characters were now on the stage. They even made a joke about E3.
This would never have happened at E3.
That is such a unique and fresh way to debut a game, and it has a lasting effect, where now that game is just on my radar, and I look forward to checking it out and playing it with Kim. Jeff is now pulling some insane magic tricks for these shows, and working with leading industries and game developers like Naughty Dog, and being able to reveal their new game. I think that's really as high as you can get without getting Rockstar. And honestly, Rockstar probably would if they were ready to show something. But while we're talking about Naughty Dog, let's talk about Naughty Dog. While watching the show for myself and seeing the one more thing being Intergalactic, Kim was with me too, and we both thought it looks sick. I saw the Porsche Starship. I saw the Sony branded CD player. I saw the bowl, and I didn't have an issue with any of it. Part of it is because I love space. Starfield let me down. No Man's Sky is fun, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. Seeing that trailer and knowing that it's Naughty Dog, the logo that brought you all of these classic games, the budget, the resources, and hopefully the know-how to give me exactly what I want, I guess I was just so hopeful that I loved what I saw, and I just was hoping for the best. Also, I love Cowboy Bebop, and this looks like Cowboy Bebop the game. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this game online, and one of it is the brand branding and the advertisements being Porsche and Sony, I really didn't see it that way. And maybe it is, maybe they did pay for it, but it's cool that it's there because it makes it feel more real. It makes it feel more like a movie or a TV show. Because in movies and TV shows, we often have real products. A lot of the times it's product placement, sure, but sometimes it's just happenstance. But in video games, you create everything from scratch. You create these assets, and licensing being the way that it is, video games usually can't afford to license certain things. So it was really cool to actually see a game be able to afford Porsche. But on top of that, it's immediately recognizable as something expensive. If they're a bounty hunter, they're probably a really great bounty hunter because they were able to afford the Porsche of starships. You can infer a lot about the story without it being told to you. Maybe that's just me, but I actually am down with these, as long as it's not an obvious ad. And I didn't see a pick up a can of Coke at any point and say, that refreshing flavor, glad it's not a Pepsi. You know?
Yes.
Next, just like the Game Awards themselves and what Geoff said about the gaming industry and the state of it, he's not sure if he's equipped to actually have that conversation on stage. I am not sure if I'm equipped to have this conversation in this video. The controversy around this game is that it's gone woke. Let's talk about that. Kim and I both recognized the actress. We'd seen the show You, and we recognized their face because of that. So when I saw her, I just saw her, and I was like, oh, cool. They got her. And that was really all I thought about. Although I will say I did think about the hair. I did think about the hair purely because, again, in my ideal game where I would want to be this character and have this adventure, I would also want to be able to style my hair because hair is important to me and people have cool wacky hair in space. I don't know, it's just part of it. Either way, I wasn't gonna throw a stink about it because, I mean, it's hair at the end of the day. The funny thing is, though, people have thrown a stink about it. And I just want to point out a couple of things regarding it. Tati herself, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, has rocked the bold look before. In fact, in like July, there was a post on Twitter of her shaving her head in the same way that she does in the trailer, except, well, not completely in the same way because who uses clippers upside down, Naughty Dog? Saying that she was just tired of doing her own hair on set, so she shaved it off. And I gotta be honest, that looks like that. She looks like she. Also, if you don't know, Naughty Dog, like with Last of Us 2, they use motion capture and put a bunch of dots all over their actors' faces so that they can get their actual realistic expressions that they make while reading the lines. Some people have actually suggested that the reason why she might be bald is because hair takes up a lot of processing power. Maybe they decided it was better to just, schlock that all off. That seems a little far-fetched to me. And I'm sure it'll help, but I think it's silly that would be the reason. I don't care. I don't care. As long as the game is good, the story is good, the narrative is good, I'm all for playing as anybody. But on top of that, I think there's just an issue with Neil Druckmann and players' trust after The Last of Us 2. And I gotta be honest, on that second point, I don't blame you. I am also not super happy with Neil. I honestly feel like he butchered the story of Last of Us 2, and I'm sorry that's so harsh to say, but that game was ruined for me. My opinion, and you can have your own. I guess for me, with Intergalactic, I didn't even know this existed a few days ago. Can we at least wait till day one until we've seen it before we judge it? That's all I and maybe many other people ask. The one I will stand up for, however, and put my foot down, is Witcher 4. That was the other game that had a ton of controversy surrounding it because, surprise, you play as a girl. But you don't just play as a random girl. We already had 3 games with Geralt, and he had a great trilogy. The whole last game was about finding Ciri, and in a lot of the sections of the game, you even play as her. So it's really not a huge leap to now play as her in the 4th game. And then also people pointed out that she doesn't look the same. I think she does look different. I think they've clearly aged her up, or they've given her scars. They've made her look like she's been through some stuff, probably to add to her character and make her feel more weighted within this Witcher story. But also, this is not the first time CD Projekt has changed the way their main character looks. Look at the way Geralt looked in the first game. You want him to go back to that? All of that negativity surrounding those games aside, the rest of the show seemed to be received very well by mostly everyone. I even saw some of my friends like Cozy K and Celia were out there taking the stage. I also want to give a shout out to Sydney Goodman, who always hosts the pre-show, and I think she She does a fantastic job, and she seems super nice and passionate about the video game industry as well and everything that she does for the show. I don't know why I'm thanking people now like I'm on the stage winning an award. I even want to thank the 4,000 people that watched my YouTube stream when I was live dying on the couch sick with a fever. All right, lastly, I want to leave you with my top 10 favorite announcements. Number 10, there was Stage Fright. It's made by the people who made Overcooked, and again, that trailer was just so memorable, and Kim and I enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait to play the game with her. Number 9 was Dying Light the Beast. I actually ended up falling in love with Dying Light on the Switch. I didn't realize how jam-packed that game was with content and just fun to play, from the parkour to the way that you fight the zombies, and this new game looks visually so cool. Sonic Racing, I already said that one was cool. We didn't see much of it, but I'm excited for it. Number 7 was Dispatch. I just want an awesome story-driven game that looks like there's a dog in it. Yeah. Number 6 was Slay the Spire 2. Ugh. Can't wait. Number 5 was Elden Ring Night Rain. So apparently that's like a co-op thing. It uses the Elden Ring's base, but does something wacky with multiplayer, and I'm just looking forward to it. Number 4 was Split Fiction. I'm not kidding. I love Hazelight Studios games. I played A Way Out with my old high school friend, and that was a blast. I played It Takes Two with him, and then I played it with Kim. I played it twice. That game is so good, and Kim and I can't wait to play Split Fiction. The concept is so cool this time. 2 writers get stuck in their own stories, and one's a sci-fi writer and the other one's a fantasy writer, so you're constantly falling into sci-fi and fantasy worlds. I got chills when he was explaining it. I was like, that's such a cool idea, man. This guy rocks. Intergalactic was number 3. It would be number 1, but I'm just so hesitant. Again, I really went to bat for it in this video because I felt like the outrage was just over the top. But Neil Druckmann and the team at Naughty Dog, after Last of Us 2, they do have a lot to prove to me personally. Number 2 is the Okami sequel. That speaks for itself. That was sick. And then number 1 was Witcher 4. Witcher 3 is in my top 5 favorite games of all time. Cyberpunk they bit off more than they could chew, and they didn't know what they were doing, and they botched it. But CD Projekt know what they're doing with Witcher. They've done it already. They just gotta do it again. Geoff, my sincerest apologies. The show was not a joke. The show was fantastic. And next year, when I vote, I'll definitely go into it with a better mindset. I can see your vision clearly now, and I can see how passionately you care and how much you love games. And it's how I feel about it too. So I respect that a lot. So that's it. Yeah.
What? Oh, Waldorf, you old fool!
What a nightmare I was having. I dreamed we were still
Waiting for the Switch 2.
We are!
No!
Yep.